So I was talking to a startup founder recently about how much carbon their company could remove by 2030 if things worked out really well for their company. And they said, if things worked out super well, my company could be removing 1 million tons per year by 2030. So stepping back from that, let's say that there's 30 companies that scale to that level. That's 30 million tons per year by 2030. In terms of growth rate, we're at about 100,000 tons per year right now. So getting to 30 million tons per year in the next 6 years would mean that overall we doubled every single year. That would be an incredible feat for a new industry. Anybody who invested in that growth, anybody who was part of those teams would be extremely proud of what they did. But to be on track to have the impact on the climate required, we need a lot more growth. So I've talked about the IPCC reports pointing towards 10 billion tons per year of removals by 2050. A recent presentation from the Rocky Mountain Institute showed a model that said to be on track for 2050, we need to be removing 285 million tons per year by 2030. So if my math is right, that means we need to triple every year for the next 6 years. So how do we do that? How do we actually get to 285 million tons per year? It adds up to about a billion tons cumulatively by 2031-ish. So the reason that I'm asking this question is it helps reframe our thinking and open up creative problem solving, right? So one startup was thinking about, how they were approaching ocean permitting. They're thinking about doing work that's out on the ocean, out on ships in the ocean. It was going to take a long time to get permits, to get ships. It was going to take a year to get a permit. So instead, they redesigned their process to use existing infrastructure to get a land-based permit instead of an ocean permit. And so they're able to get deployed way faster than they otherwise would. And that's the type of thinking that's going to enable us to get those triples that we need. So I'm here in New York. I'm taking this conversation to Carbon and Bound tomorrow. And we're making this whole conference about how do we get to 1 billion tons of carbon dioxide remove by 2030 to be on track for those 2050 targets. So for those of you not at the conference, I want you to have these conversations yourself. Like, what would it take to 10x how you're thinking about the amount of removals that what you're working on can do? What would it take to 100x it, right? What would need to be true? What resources would you need? What resources would you start to run out of, right? Like, what processes that take years would you need to take days instead? Because if we're not hitting those targets, then we're not solving the climate crisis. And that's the whole point of carbon removal. So it's go time. I'll see you all at Carbon and Bound tomorrow. And I look forward to hearing about, for all of you that aren't there, how you're thinking about removing 1 billion tons by 20.